Abba Yahuwah, I just want to thank you, my Father. I want to thank you for what you are doing in this hour, Father. Never has there been an hour such as this. Truly, you are the one that is going to speak. You are the one that is going to roar over the nations of the world, so that man will stand, and they will stand in awe of who you are. Because when you roar, then people stand and they say, wow, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Because there is a sound, a new sound that is going to come forth now, that is going to be able to come, and that is going to be able to bring a freedom and a release to your people. And so, Abba Yahuwah, I just want to thank you. I thank you, my Father, for that which you are releasing in this hour. Truly, you are starting to speak to your prophets that have been speaking for a long time. But now, there's going to be signs and wonders that are going to start happening, so that you will be seen for who you are. That we're not just speaking and speaking and speaking, but there will be signs that will go with what you are speaking. Because Yeshua was our sign. He was the sign that came. And Abba Yahuwah, I truly want to thank you for this message today of this 144,000, this remnant people, this remnant bride that you have been busy with for a long time. And like you have said in Isaiah chapter 43, there is a people yet to be created, yet to be born, that will praise you. That will praise you. Psalm 24. There is a people that is raising up that are going to be able to restore to you the praise that is due, the honor that is due. And they will be those that will be bowed before you. They will be those that have totally and utterly surrendered to you, and they will follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They are those that will raise up in spirit and in truth. They are those that follow the King. They follow the Lamb. They follow the King. They are not on this earth for themselves. They are utterly and totally surrendered and submitted to you and to your ways. And Abba Yahuwah, I just thank you. Abba, I cry out for those that are in this place of the refiner's fire in this last hour, and how it's going to make or break, whether they're going to overcome or whether they're going to be able to throw in the towel. Because many, when they find themselves in that final lap of the race, they lose the energy, they lose that stamina, they slack off, and then they let go because it's just too hard. And so I pray, Abba Yahuwah, that you strengthen your people in this hour, that they will be strengthened to be able to run the race and finish the race, that they will be able to come to the place of where they will overcome. And Father, for all those that find themselves being weak, for all those that find themselves being in a place of where they just cannot take it anymore, it's just one test after another test after another test that just seems to be so much that they cannot bear. Father, Abba Yahuwah, I pray, bring people around them, their lives, that can come and lift up their arms to strengthen them, so that they will lift up their heads and look up to the heavens. Because where does their help come from? Their help comes from you, the creator of heaven and earth. And so I thank you, Father. I thank you that you are the one that is going to help this 144,000. You know who they are. There is a work for them to do in these last days. And that is why you need them to be strengthened in this time, because they are these forerunners that need to run with the work that needs to be done to bring in the harvest. And so I thank you, Abba, that in this time you will seal them off with your love, with your grace, with your mercy. Help them as you are sealing them off, as you are purifying them, as you are allowing them to be refined, as they are being tested, as they are being tried. I pray, Abba Yahuwah, that they will not falter, but that we will all stand strong to be a witness for the glory and the honor of your name. I pray this. And Father, I thank you that you will open up the minds of our understanding today. Open up our hearts to be able to receive your word, that we will be able to see the word, and we will shamar, and we will be able to hear the word, and we will shama, that we will see to shamar, to observe, to put it into practice, that we will shama in order to be able to obey. Give us eyes to see, give us ears to hear, that we may be those that will truly make a difference for you in this hour. And I pray that your truth will come in and set the captives free from all the religious things that we have been taught around this remnant. I praise and I thank you for this in Yeshua's name. Amen. Praise Abba. And so last week we started looking at Revelation chapter 7, and we went and we were looking at this messengers, these four messengers that are standing at the four corners of the earth, and they are holding back those winds of the earth. And the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on the trees, until you have sealed off your people. But Abba Yahuwah, once your people have been sealed off, then those winds are going to start to blow, and nothing is going to stop them from blowing. And the destruction is going to come quickly. And so, Abba, as you open up this word about this 144,000, Father, that seems to be such a small number, drop in the ocean, in comparison to 7 billion people. 7 to 8 billion people upon the planet of the earth. You are talking to 144,000. But then again, how many million were on the earth at the time of Noah, and only 7 went into the ark? We could be looking at about maybe 2 million people that came out of Egypt. Only 2 entered into the promised land. So as a matter of fact, Father is not into big numbers. And this is what we must understand. We always have this understanding that Father is into big numbers. He's not into big numbers. He's looking for a remnant, and this is what we must understand. And so this is why when we looked at this, and it says that he's got these 4 living creatures, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 messengers to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, "Do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Alua upon their foreheads." And so last week we went and we saw what is the seal. And interesting, the seal is being sealed on the forehead. And the seal has everything to do with the sign. And what is the sign? The sign was given to us as the the Shabbat, coming back to the commands being sealed on our foreheads, on the frontlets of between our eyes, on the frontlets of our foreheads, and around our hand. So interesting that if you're going to look at the mark of the beast, where is it going to be, this mark? If it's going to be a physical mark, or is it going to be a spiritual mark? Because everybody's waiting for a physical thing. But yet when the Father spoke, the Jews have made a physical box. But when the Father was speaking to them there, He wasn't putting a physical thing on them. He was saying you ought to bind them between the frontlets of your eyes, meaning they ought to be in your mind. They ought to be embedded in your mind. And they ought to be around your hand to understand. You're not only to meditate on it, but you ought to walk it out. You ought to be able to act it out. Whatever your hand is being put to, you ought to be reminded that you are to walk and work for me. And so now today we are going to continue to have a look at, we're going to see in Revelation chapter 14, where he is going to talk about a seal. So in Revelation chapter 7, it's where he's sealing this 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe. But then when we get to chapter 14, this is now when he's really talking about the fact that they have been sealed. So here it tells you that they were sealed on their foreheads, because we read in verse 3 that the servants of Eloah were to be sealed upon their foreheads. And now when we have a look at Revelation chapter 14, and we are going to read Revelation chapter 14 verses 1 to 5 for us to be able to go into detail with these people, because you got to lay a foundation to understand who these people are and what are these people about, because this is what is important for us to understand. Because you can't just read scripture and put your name in it and think, well, this is for me. Because at the end of the day, it comes with a criteria. And this is how I just like the way the church just wants to put themselves as, we are the church, we are the chosen, we are the anointed and the appointed. I can act as I want, I can do what I like, but yet at the end of the day, I'm the anointed, the appointed, and the chosen. No, even with the children of Israel, Father destroyed them and only had a remnant that was going to come forth. And today we're going to look at that. That even when he took them into Babylon and allowed them to go into Babylon, he was going to have a remnant at the end. So the Father will always have a remnant, because he's going to clean up. He needs to clean up. He will uproot everything that is not of him. And so you see, you have a choice. You have a choice in this. You have a choice to allow him to clean you up and be part of this remnant, or else you will be part of those that will be able to be, it's not to, please, you need to understand, this has got nothing to do with the fact of, that there's only going to be 144,000 having to be upon the earth, because we are going to understand, as we're going to continue to read in Revelation chapter 7, there are the martyrs that had to die for their faith. So there's a whole lot of other group as well. So we must understand that he has these selections. The same as not everybody of the whole house of Israel was allowed to come into the holy place. And not every priest was allowed to enter into the Holy of Holies. He had his chosen vessels that had to do what he had to do. All of them were allowed to come into the outer court. The outer court was for all. But those that entered into the holy place was only the priesthood. Only the priests were allowed to go and be able to enter into the holy place. They were allowed to go and light the menorah. They were allowed to be able to take the coal of fire and put it into the altar of incense. But only the high priest was allowed to take that altar of incense into the Holy of Holies, and he was allowed to take the blood into the Holy of Holies to be able to offer it on the altar of the Ark of the Covenant. So you must understand, Yeshua was ministering to all, but to many of them he spoke in parables, and they wouldn't understand him. But to the disciples, he went deeper and revealed his secrets. And then out of the 12, there was 3 that went and saw him standing on the Mount of Transfiguration. And then out of the 3, there was 1, John the Immerser, Yohanan the Immerser, that was willing to put his head on his bosom, that he was able to give this revelation to. So people would say, but he doesn't have favorites. No, he doesn't have favorites. But there are those that have been selected to do what they need to do. And so you must understand, this is a group of people that is being selected by the Father in order to do what he's wanting them to do. And we need to understand what kind of people these people are. So in Revelation chapter 14, from verses 1, it says, "And I looked, and I saw a lamb, and standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having Father's name written upon their foreheads." So here it is very clear that they have his name, and some of the texts actually say his name and his Father's name. So the name of the Father and the name of the Son written on their foreheads. "And I heard a voice out of the heaven, like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of a loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps." Praise Abba. You see, when Abba wants to reveal himself, he will reveal himself with thunder and with lightning, just like he did when he appeared to them and he was going to speak to them on Mount Sinai. "And they sang a renewed song before the throne." So they're singing. It's part of the worship that they're bringing to the Father. "And before the 4 living creatures and the elders, and no one was able to learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth." So understand, these 144,000 are redeemed from the earth, and they are part of a first fruits. Because you see, there will be many, but out of the many, there's going to be a first fruits offering. And that was the difference between Cain and Abel. Cain brought an offering. He just brought a normal offering. He went and took some of his fruit from the land and went and brought an offering to the Father. But that is not what Abel did. Abel brought his first fruits. Habal came and he brought his first fruits offering to the Father because he wanted to give him the best. And so these are those that are the Father's best. They are those who were not defiled with woman, for they are maidens. They are those, okay, this is now what we're going to look into intently. They are those following the Lamb, wherever he leads them on. Now, I ask you, if these people are trying to deny the Lamb, and they don't accept the Lamb, then how are they part of the 144,000? So it amazes me when people will turn around and they'll say, but these are the Jews. This 144,000 are the Jews. How can it be the Jews if the Jews right now do not accept the Messiah? They do not follow the Lamb. They are not following the Lamb at all. So how can it be 144,000 Jews that do not follow the Lamb? Because they say by that time, this is all this theologies that get given us from these people that have, given all these teachings on this book of Revelation. No, the church has been raptured because they are holy, so they've been raptured. And the Jews are going to stay behind. And then they will get saved, and then they will follow the Lamb. But you see, what have we been taught? This is a remnant of people And this people are a faithful people. And because they have been tested and tried and proved faithful, they are a first fruits company of people. I tell you now, you are not going to be part of this group of people if when you are tested and tried, you throw in the towel and you don't overcome those tests that have been put before you, because you will disqualify yourself. It's like I said, the Father will not take you past your last disobedience. So if He's dealing with you in an area and you are not willing to lay down that area in your life, it's going to block you. Hear me when I say to you today, because it shows Him that you still have a level of rebellion within you. No rebellion can stand before the Father. No rebellion. You understand? Father is not into a rebellious nature, because it's the nature of Hasatan. And that is why He doesn't want rebellion. And that is why He puts you through the trial. He puts you through the test. He brings truth and brings truth and brings truth. And you either resist the truth or you embrace the truth and you walk it out. The choice is yours. But if truth comes, it's your choice, whether you receive it or whether you rebel against it. And you are the one showing Him whether you receive it or whether you rebel. That will make the difference between whether He's going to select you or not. Because He cannot have somebody represent His kingdom that is still in their rebellious nature. Not for this criteria. This is His first fruit companies of people. And He says they were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to allure the Lamb. To allure and to the Lamb. So, with all this Torah movements that is out there, that are starting to deny Messiah Yahushua, and say, no, we just need to focus on the Father. We don't need to be able to worship the Son. Then I say to you, who are you following? Because these people were following the Lamb. And so if they are not following the Lamb, then they too are disqualifying themselves. And we are going to see this in the scriptures that we're going to read today. They are going to disqualify themselves. And so you see there's many filled with arrogance and pride, thinking that they are part of this group. And then number 5, verse 5. And in their mouth was found no falsehood. And they are blameless before the throne of Allah. So, if it means that in their mouth is found no falsehood, you cannot continue to speak those things that is falsehood. You cannot continue to call Him Jesus, Lord and God, when that is not His name. We cannot continue to speak those false things that we have been taught and think that, you see, that's why I'm saying to you, who do you want to be? Because in the outer court you can get away with everything. That was the word that the Father gave me many years ago. That which you get away with in the outer court will kill you in the Holy of Holies. You cannot come in the Holy of Holies and come and worship Him and speak to Him the way that you, and dress the way you wanted in the outer court and think you're going to be able to come and stand before Him in the Holy of Holies. I stand appalled at the way that I see some of these women dressing, and yet they supposedly represent the Father. That is representation of the Father. And you'll put on some of these YouTube videos and you will watch some of these worship, that's why I want just the song. I don't want to see what is on the stage, because that is just going to want to put me off. Because I say, is that the way you represent the King of Kings? Is that the way you represent? Imagine the priests would just come and stand before the Father with just any way they wanted. No, He dressed them up and said, this is how you're going to dress. You're not just going to come into my tabernacle the way that you want. But you see, there's a level of dying. There's a level of shaking that still needs to come in people's hearts. That is not there yet. Because we are still too comfortable. Because at the end of the day, people dress for comfort. Isn't it? It's still too comfortable. But that comfortable is not necessarily representing the King. And that is why I'm saying we need to get to the place of the understanding of where the Father is really, really now wanting to be able to bring a shaking to people. Because this is a selected group of people. You must understand, they are set apart. They follow the Lamb. They are maidens. They are virgins. They are the 5 virgins that have the oil in their lamps. And they are first fruits offering. So understand, out of the whole house of Israel, Father selected first fruits that will be able to come. Those first fruits were those that He selected to be His priests. So this is a priesthood of people. That's why He's selecting them. Like He selected He had one tribe that He selected out of the 12 tribes. He selected one tribe that was going to be His first fruits group of people. That He was going to have set apart to be His priests. That were going to represent Him. That were going to teach His ways to the people. And that were going to serve Him the way He wanted to be served. And the criteria that was for them was not the same as those that was on the outside, in the outer court. And that's why I say to people, if you are the outer court type people, and you're happy to be there, then that's okay. If that's where you want to be, that's fine. Doesn't mean to say that you're not saved. Do you understand what I'm saying? But who do you want to be? That's the difference. Who do you want to be? Because it's all the difference. It makes all the difference in who you want to be. So let's go have a look at John chapter 3. John chapter 3 from verses 33. In John chapter 3 verses 33 it says, He who receives His witness has set His seal that Allure is true. So understand, He who receives His witness. So He who receives His witness. Who is His witness? He who receives Yahushua, who was the witness that come, has set His seal that Allure is true. So if you receive Yahushua, you acknowledge that Yahuwah is true. If you don't receive Yahushua, then what are you doing? You're not even going to believe that the Father is true either, because the Father has set a seal. And the seal is Yahushua. Verse 34. For he whom Allure has sent, for him whom Allure has sent, speaks the words of Allure, for Allure does not give the Spirit by measure. For the Father loves the Son, and has given all into His hand. You see, that's why I said, I don't understand how people are all of a sudden wanting to take the deity of Yahushua away. From where have they fallen? They've fallen into deception. And that's why I'm saying, and that's why I'm warning of what is going on in the Torah movement at the moment. They become so learned, following rabbis and rabbinic teachings, that eventually that same spirit that is upon the rabbinical Judaism is going to get the same people to eventually deny their Messiah. Be aware of what you listen to. He who believes in the Son possesses everlasting life. But he who does not obey the Son does not see life, but the wrath of Elua remains on him. So understand, these are the people that are being sealed off from the judgments that are coming upon the earth. And so he who believes in the Son possesses everlasting life. And we're going to look at what is everlasting life. But he who does not obey the Son shall not see life. They shall not see life. And what is the life? The life is, he said, Yeshua spoke, he said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He's looking for the true worshippers. Those who are going to worship him in spirit and in truth. And so, if you want to possess everlasting life, you need to obey. Obey the Son. Obey the Father. They are one. So now we go have a look at John chapter 6. Let's have a look at John chapter 6 from verses 26. John chapter 6 from verses 26. Yeshua speaking, and he says, Yeshua answered them and said, Truly, truly, I say to you, you seek me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were satisfied. Do not labor for food that is perishing, but for the food that is remaining to everlasting life, which the Son of Adam shall give you, for the Father, Elua, has set his seal on him. So you see, who was the first one that had to receive? Who was the first one that received the seal? He received the sign when he was baptized. The heavens opened and the dove ascended upon him and filled him with the Ruach. And that was his seal, his sign that was being put upon him. And so he was the first one to be sealed. So they said to him, what should we do to work the works of Elua? So you see, so many people are still working for the works that this world's things have to give them. It's not about everything that you're going to acquire from this earth. If all you're doing is putting everything into what you're supposed to achieve out of this world, you have missed the mark. Because he says, you are to store up for yourselves treasures in heavens, where the moths cannot come and steal. Where nothing can come and steal it. But if all we're going to do is be able to work for only what this world has got to offer us, believe me when I say, the plug is about to be pulled and there is going to be a crash. And when that crash comes, everything you've put your trust in, your faith in is going to be gone. And then who's going to carry you then? Because you spent more time chasing after that is to be able to be there, to be able to give you this world's riches, but not chasing after the riches of the kingdom to come. And so do not labor for the food that is perishing, but for the food that is remaining. For the Father, Elua, has set his seal on them. So they said to him, what should we do to work the works of Elua? Yeshua answered and said to them, this is the work of Elua, that you believe in him whom he sent. So you see, we are to believe Yeshua whom the Father sent. So they said to him, what sign then would you do, so that we see and believe you? What would you do? So you see, people are always looking for a sign. And the Father is giving many signs. And yet he gave all the signs to the Israelites in the wilderness. He gave them 10 plagues for them to see. He parted the Red Sea for them to see. He gave them quail. He gave them manna. Yet, did they believe him? Did they trust in him? Only 2 of the original lot that came out of Egypt actually entered into the promised land because of their unbelief, because of their griping, their moaning and their complaining. So do you see? And we think we're any different. We're not any different. We're no different, and that's why we really need to be able to pray and seek the Father. Our fathers ate the manna. Yeah, now he's going to tell you. Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, as it has been written. He gave them bread out of heaven to eat. Therefore, Yahushua said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, Moshe did not give you the bread out of the heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread out of the heaven. So you see, he's giving you the true bread. Who is the true bread? Yahushua is the true bread of life. That's why he says, if you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you will not thirst and you will not hunger. For the bread of Eloah is he who comes down out of heaven and gives life to the world. Who brought life? Yahushua himself is the one. He is the light of all the world, and he gives us life. So they said to him, Master, give us this bread always. And Yahushua said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not get hungry at all. He who believes in me shall not get thirsty at all. So there you go. There you go. You shall not thirst. You shall not hunger. When your trust and your faith and your eyes on your Messiah, who is the one who's the author and the finisher of your faith, when he's the one who's going to lead you, he's the one who's going to guide you. The days ahead, we might not have bread, we might not have water, we might not have anything, but guess what? We are going to trust him. We are going to look to him, and he will satisfy us in our spirit man. But I said to you that you have seen me and still do not believe. All that the Father gives me shall come to me, and the one who comes to me I shall by no means cast out. Because I have come down out of heaven, not to do my own desire, but the desire of him who sent me. This is the desire of my Father who sent me, that all he has given me I should not lose of it, but should raise it in the last day. So you see, this company of people is part of those that are going to reign and rule with him in the last day. And this is the desire of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should possess everlasting life, and I shall raise him up in the last day. So what is this everlasting life? They shall possess everlasting life. So we now go to John chapter 17. John chapter 17. In John chapter 17 verses 3 it says, and this is everlasting life, that they should know you, the only true Eloah, and Yahushua Mashiach, whom you have sent. I have esteemed you on earth, having accomplished the work you gave me that I should do. So understand, what is everlasting life? So all these people, I don't know about you, but I was taught at church, everlasting life is something I'm going to receive when I die. Everlasting life was not something that I was taught that I receive. When I receive Messiah now, I receive everlasting life. I was expecting this everlasting life that when I die, I'm then going to get everlasting life, because then I'm going to reign and rule with him. Then I'm going to be with him in heaven. But he's telling you clearly what everlasting life is. Everlasting life is that you know the only true Eloah and Yahushua Messiah whom you have sent. Now what is that word know? I'm going to give you that word know in the Hebrew. And that Hebrew word for know is the word yada. Yada. The word yada means to know. And that word yada, to know, is to perceive, recognize, understand, become acquainted with him. You will perceive, you will recognize, you will understand, you will have this understanding as a husband and a wife in intimacy. So this is the word for intimacy. It is for you to be able to come into that place of a husband and a wife in intimacy. It's like my husband and I, we have been married for 32 years. I can say that I know him. When he walks into a room, I already just need to look at that face to know that you better be very careful what you're going to say right now. He's not in the mood. This is not the time now to want to tell him when he comes home he needs to go and do something because this has happened or that has happened. Because just by that look on that face, you can already see that this has not been a good day. This has not been a good day. This is not now the time to want to go and sit and become a dripping tap of a wife that wants to complain. It's not the time. It's not the time to do that. I know the food he likes. I know the color he likes. I know the clothes he likes. I know him because I have an intimacy. I have a relationship with him. And therefore I know him. Because why? Because we have a relationship. We have a marriage. Now, would you honestly say that you know your Father? Do you know what pleases him? Do you know what doesn't please him? Do you know what saddens him? Do you know what he's feeling right now? What he's thinking right now? Because he wants to share it with his servants. And this is what we need to understand. Everlasting life is this intimacy. And we say that we know him. And to know him is to obey him. Because when he gave me this word in 2008, after I was doing, I think it was a 40-day fast or something, he challenged me with this everlasting life. Because that was the word that he said, my people, that's what he said to me, my people don't know me, Natalia. They come to me with their lists of prayers, but they don't know me. Get my people to know me. That is what when he appeared to me in my bath, when I stood and I saw the nail-pierced feet of Joshua. And I was in his presence. And that's when he said to me, Natalia, my people don't know me. They come to me with their lists of prayers, but they don't know me. Get my people to know me. I said, I don't even know you. He says, I will put within you a drop of my love. And it's interesting, because that's the thing that I will be most accused of, that I don't have love. But yet he put a drop of his love in me. And that's why I know he had to put a drop of his love in me, because he knew that that was the one thing that I was going to be the most accused of, to say that I have no love. Because when I have to speak straight to people and when I have to speak truth to people, the first thing that they will accuse me of is to say, you got no love. No, love speaks the truth, because love loves you enough to be able to tell you the truth, because they don't want to see you in the clutches of hell. They love you enough to tell you the truth. Someone who doesn't love you will walk with you and not even tell you the truth. Then they don't love you. Because love speaks the truth. Because love is truth. And so we have a look at 1 John. Just keep your finger there, because we're going straight back to John chapter 17. So just go to 1 John chapter 2. Because we are laying this foundation of ours to understand spirit and truth. To understand that we are following Yeshua in spirit and in truth. We are to understand that if we do not have his commands and his ways, which is the sign that he gave us, and then the name of Yahuwah and Yahushua, then we are not even part of this 144,000. We can't even put ourselves there. 1 John 2, verse 3 says, and by this we know that we know him. So how do you know that you know him? There's many people that say they know him. But this is how you know that you know him. If you guard his commands. If you don't guard his commands, you are not even on the path of coming to know him. You are giving him lip service, and that's all you're doing. You are those that have eyes, yet you cannot see. You are those that hear, but yet you cannot hear. Because you are those that have eyes, but you do not shamar. You do not observe. You are those that have ears, but you do not shama. You do not obey. So we know that we know him if we guard his commands. The one who says, I know him, and does not guard his commands is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoever guards his word, understand, whoever guards his word from Genesis to Revelation, please do not just make it about the Torah. Genesis to Revelation, whoever guards his word, truly the love of Eloah has been perfected in him. By this we know that we know him. The one who says he stays in him ought to himself also walk as he walked. So all these people that say, I am of Messiah, they will use Christ. I'm in Christ. How can you be in Christ and yet you don't walk as he walked? How can you say that you love him, yet you don't obey his commands? Then you are a liar. The truth is not in you. So do you understand why there is a great awakening that needs to come to people? Because you've got a group of people who have accepted him, yet don't live as he lives, yet don't do what he did. And then you've got a group of people that don't accept him at all, that deny him. And so we got a problem. So you got one that is totally blinded because they don't want to accept him as their Messiah. And you got another group of people that have accepted him as their Messiah, and yet they deny him anyway because they don't walk as he walked, and they don't obey him, and they don't obey the things that he obeyed, and they don't understand his purpose for coming. So they sing songs to him that are void of names, that his true name. They worship him, but they don't really know him. So now we go back to John chapter 17, because remember the seal was the name. So let's look at John chapter 17 verses 6. In John chapter 17 verses 6, Yeshua speaking says, I have revealed your name to the men whom you gave me out of the world. They were yours, and you gave them to me, and they have guarded your word. So you see, I have revealed your name to the men whom you gave me out of the world. And they were yours, and you gave them to me, and they have guarded your word. I've got a note of you, I just want to go there. Psalm 138. Let me just go read. What does it say in Psalm 138? Psalm 138, verse 2. I bow myself before your set-apart Hekel and give thanks to your name for your loving commitment and for your truth, for you have made great your word, your name above all. Wow. There we go. So we bow ourselves in reverence to your set-apart Hekel. And we give thanks to your name, Yahuwah, for your loving commitment and for your truth. For you have made great your word. And who became great? Who became the word that became flesh? And this is what we're going to see. Your name above all. So we look at verse 11, so he says, I have revealed your name to the men whom you gave me out of the world. They were yours, and you gave them to me, and they have guarded your word. And then from verse 11, it says, and I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to you. Set apart, Father, guard them in your name. Okay, so what is the seal? Guard them in your name, which you have given me, so that they might be one as we are one. So you see, this is all about being united in Him as one. And this is part of this whole message that we might not cover it today, but we're going to go deeper into this message of understanding unity, oneness, so that they might be one as we are one. When I was with them in the world, I was guarding them in your name. Wow. Which you have given me, and I watched over them, and not one of them perished, except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be fulfilled. So now if we have a look and we see that word keep, it says guard them in your name, guard them, keep them in your name. It's the word terio, G5083. And it means to carefully take care of, to guard, to keep, to reserve, to guard from loss or injury, to hold fast, to watch, to observe. So the Father is going to guard them and keep them from injury. So you see, they're being sealed to be protected, guarded, kept from the destruction that is going to come from this. They are going to be protected from this whole thing that is going to come of the great tribulation that is going to be upon the earth. Father is protecting them and guarding them. And this is the same word that he says in Revelation chapter 3. It's the same word that he uses in Revelation chapter 3 for the church of Philadelphia, where it says, because you have guarded my word, in Revelation chapter 3 verses 10, because you have guarded my word, because you have kept my word of endurance, I also shall guard you from the hour of trial, which shall come upon all the world to try those who dwell on the earth. Do you see? That's why the church of Philadelphia is the 144,000. The church of Philadelphia are those who will be able to keep, they guard his word, and they have not denied his name. Look at verse 8. I know your works. See, I've set before you an open door. They are those that have been given the keys of the kingdom. They are those that have going to be able to go through the door, and no one is able to shut it. That you have little power because they've gone through many trials and many tests, and they've been constantly going through the fire because they're purified in the fire, refined in the fire like gold. But they have guarded my word and have not denied my name, because the name is going to be the seal that we cannot deny. And they have guarded the word, because the word is the foundation that they have of the commands that they walk in, and the fullness of his word. And so this comes back to those that walk in spirit and in truth. And so that is why in John chapter 17, he says, set them apart in your truth. Your word is truth. And then verses 19, and for them I set myself apart, so that they too might be set apart in truth. I do not pray for these alone, but also for those believing in me through their word. So you see, as we preach the word, as the word goes forth, more and more will become set apart in this truth. So now we go to Ephesians 1. Ephesians chapter 1 from 3. And it says, even as he chose us in him We're going to read to verse 13. Even as he chose us in him before the foundations of the world, that we should be set apart and blameless before him in love. Now I ask you, if you are not on this path, if you became a Christian, and all you did was become a Christian and now you're saved and you're going to go to heaven, then you've missed the whole mark of what you're supposed to have been. Because it says that we should be set apart and blameless before him in love. So he says, as he chose us in him before the foundations of the world, that we should be, not that we are, that we should be set apart and blameless before him in love. Because this is why we will walk out our salvation with fear and trembling. Having previously ordained us to adoption as sons through Yeshua Messiah to himself, according to the good pleasure of his desire, to the praise of the esteem of his favor, with which he favored us in the beloved, in which we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of trespasses, the forgiveness of sins. So what have we been forgiven of? We have the forgiveness of sins of now. The sin is, we just read it when I did Isaiah chapter 42. The sin is what? Transgression. What is that transgression? Sin is lawlessness, which is the transgression against the Torah, the transgression against his commands. Now we have no excuse because we've received Messiah Yahushua, who came in the flesh, and then he gives us the Spirit that works it in us to be able to walk it out, which he has lavished on us in all wisdom and insight, having made known to us the secret of his desire, according to his good pleasure, which he purposed in him, to administer at the completion of time, to gather together in one, all in Messiah. And this is what we're going to see. This new man, this 144,000 makes up a new man. It makes up a new man. To administer at the completion of time, to gather together in one, all in Messiah, both which are in heavens and which are on earth, in him, so that we can all be complete in him. So how do you not follow him? You need to be in him. To be in him means you do what he did. In whom also we did obtain an inheritance, being previously ordained according to the purpose of him, working all matters according to the counsel of his desire. So we are working all matters according to the desire of the Father, not our desire, but his desire, for us to be the praise of his esteem, those having first trusted in Messiah. So you see, we should become a praise offering for the Father. That's why we are going to be the first fruits for the Father, his esteem, those having first trusted in Messiah. So we trust in Messiah, and then we follow him, and we allow him to set us apart, because we're supposed to be set apart and blameless. And that is why he says in Titus, as I'm just sitting over here, he's telling me go to Titus. So let me just go to Titus, because we need to understand what is Yeshua coming. Because you see, we have a lot of doctrines that's not correct. So in Titus chapter 2, he says, for the saving gift of Elohim, Titus chapter 2 verse 11, for the saving gift of Elohim has appeared to all men. So the saving gift of grace has appeared to all men. Grace is not the license to sin. What is grace for? So the saving gift, that saving gift is the grace, has appeared to all men, instructing us to renounce wickedness. So if you've received the grace, then you are to renounce wickedness and worldly lusts. So you see, you're not flesh beings anymore. You're not chasing after your own desires and your own lusts and your own cravings and your own ways. You are renouncing it. You are renouncing with the wickedness of this world. I mean, just this morning, I saw someone putting something on a group. And this thing, right at the end, the man says something that is just not right. And so two people stand up and speak up against it. And the person who put it then says, no, but don't look at all of that. Just look at the message. And then the one person got up, who's a prophet and who will speak straight. And he said straight, you know what? Let's not call what's good evil. Let's not call what's evil good. We can't look at wickedness and embrace it and say, oh, there's a message in wickedness. Wickedness is wickedness. Now you see, this is when prophets are now going to start raising up and saying, this is not acceptable, this is not right. Now you know what, I had wanted to put a message, but I'm busy with a message for the Father, so I wasn't going to get involved. So because I didn't get involved, don't worry, Father rose up a prophet who got involved, and someone else who got involved. And this is the time that we are in now, to renounce wickedness and worldly lusts, and to live sensibly, righteously, and reverently in this present age. Now listen to verse 13 and 14. Looking for the blessed expectation and esteem appearance of the great Allure and our Savior Messiah Yeshua. So we are looking for the expectation of Him coming, because listen to 14. Who gave Himself for us to redeem us. So understand, if we are to be redeemed from the earth, He redeemed us from all lawlessness, Torahlessness. That word is lawlessness, which is anomia, which means one without Torah. So all our Torahlessness, and to cleanse for Himself a people, His own possession. And that's who we are, His people, being set apart, ordained for good works, so that they are the ones that are going to do the good works for Him on the earth. And so we continue to read in Ephesians. And he says, that's why he says, to administer at the completion of time and gather together in one, all in Messiah, both which are in the heavens and which are on the earth, in whom also we did obtain an inheritance, being previously ordained according to the purpose of Him, working all matters according to the counsel of His desire, for us to be the praise of His esteem, those having first trusted in Messiah. Now listen to verse 13. In whom you also have heard the word of the truth, the good news of the deliverance, in whom also, having believed, you were sealed with the set-apart spirit of the promise. So I ask you, you have to be sealed with His Ruach. So understand, the seal was the Torah, and now the Spirit of truth. So the seal was the Torah, and now you are being set apart, the good news of your deliverance, in whom also having believed, you were sealed with the set-apart spirit of promise. Now we're being sealed with the set-apart spirit of promise. And this is why we look and we see John chapter 4 verses 21 to 24. So understand why everything is about spirit and truth, spirit and truth, spirit and truth. And this is what we must understand. We are being sealed with the spirit that is the spirit of the truth. So we've got the Torah and we've got the Ruach. So some people want the Torah, they don't want the Ruach. So that's why in John chapter 4, he turns around and he says, Yeshua said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you shall neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, because the deliverance is of the Yehudim. So see, Yeshua was going to come through the tribe of Yehudah. That was going to bring the deliverance. And that is why when we are going to look at these 12 tribes, it starts first with the tribe of Yehudah, not with the way it was before. It doesn't start with Reuben. It starts with Yehudah. But the hour is coming, and now is, when true worshippers. So see, we have a lot of false worshippers going around, but we will have true worshippers, and shall worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father also does seek such to worship Him. Eloah is spirit, and those who worship him need to worship him in spirit and in truth. So do you see? Truth, the word, foundation of the truth. Spirit, the seven spirits of Yahuwah, where we are being led and guided by the Ruach of Yahuwah. And that is why in Ezekiel 36, let's go to Ezekiel 36. Ezekiel 36 verses 25, it says, "And I shall sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness, and from all your idols I cleanse you. And I shall give you a new heart, and put a new spirit within you. I shall take the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh, and put my spirit within you." So you see, how do we have Torah without the spirit of the Father? And who does the Spirit come to bear witness of? See, that's what we're going to look at. So, if the Spirit is not bearing witness of Yahushua, then we do not have the Ruach of Yahuwah. We only have Torah, no Spirit. And we're going to see that next week. And so it says, "And I shall give you a heart of flesh, and put my Spirit within you. And I shall cause you to walk in my laws, and guard my right rulings, and shall do them. And you shall dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I shall be your Eloah." So do you see, I will put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws. So how are we going to walk out his Torah without the Ruach of Yahuwah? Then it's a work of the flesh. And everything that comes from the flesh eventually is not going to stand. That's why the shaking is going to come. And only that which is in spirit is going to stand, because you need to have spirit and truth. You need to be a true worshipper. The true worshippers are who are going to stand. And so I put my spirit within you. And so without the Father's Spirit, how do you walk out those laws? Then you are doing it of your flesh. You will keep these things all of the flesh. Because it's the Spirit who quickens it in you. It's the Spirit who's going to lead you and guide you. It's the Spirit who's going to teach you. Otherwise, it becomes just legalistic to you. But when the Ruach, you see, I don't do what I do because I have to. I do what I do because I want to. Because I love my Father, and because I love him, I want to obey him. That is the difference. The difference is I have a love relationship between me and my Father and my Messiah. I have a love relationship that is cultivated on a daily basis. And because the more I love him, the more I bow. The more I love him, the more I humble. The more I love him, the more I want to obey him. The more I love him, the more I understand that he is a loving Yah who loves me, but he is a disciplining Yah who wants me to obey. Just like my parents. Just like my earthly parents, I had to revere them, and I had to respect them and obey them. So my Father, I have to revere him and respect him and obey him. I am the child. He is the parent. I am only the child. And the child does not tell the parent what to do. A child, hear it! A child does not tell the parent what to do. So how dare we think we can tell the Father what to do? He is the parent. You are the creation. You are the child. He brought you forth, just like your parents brought you forth. Therefore, you don't backchat them. Therefore, you don't tell them what to do. You are the child. They are the parent. So I put my spirit within you, and I cause you to walk in my laws, and guard my right rulings, and shall do them. And you shall dwell in the land that I gave your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I shall be your Lord. So how do we get back to that promised land? How are we going to dwell in that land? When we are going to be able to guard his right rulings, and guard his laws, and do them. Then we're going to close off with 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 13 says, "But we ought to give thanks to Allah always for you, brothers, beloved by the Master, because Allah from the beginning chose you to be saved." So you see, we read it in Ephesians chapter 1. He chose you to be saved in set apartness of spirit and belief in truth. So the seal was the spirit, and the seal is the truth, which is the commands, the Torah, the obedience to the laws, His instructions. That is the fullness of the seal. Let us pray. Abba Yahuwah, I just want to thank you, my Father. I thank you that we truly need to be able to come into the revelation of the knowledge of the truth of that which you are declaring in this hour, so that we understand truth and not the lies that we have been fed. It's time now for truth to be solidified in our hearts, and you will keep repeating your scriptures and repeating your scriptures and repeating your scriptures, because there will come a day when we might not even have this Bible, but we will know what these scriptures will say, because we've read them so many times that they will be embedded in our hearts, that will come forth from our lips to be able to minister to your people in the day of when we need to be a witness for you. And so, Abba Father, I just want to thank you. I humbly bow before you, my Father, and I thank you for our Messiah, Yahushua, the gift that was given to us, the one that has come to be able to seal off a people for you once again, sealing off a people that are to eat from the tree of life, those who are going to follow you in spirit and in truth, those who are willing to be set apart, those who are not about their flesh desires, those that love you above their own lives, those that desire to follow you wholeheartedly. Abba Yahuwah, I just want to thank you. I thank you for the sign that you gave us, Messiah Yahushua the Tav. He's the sign, He is the Tav. You are the Aleph and He is the Tav, but together you make the Aleph Tav. I thank you for your truth. I thank you for the Ruach. I thank you that Yeshua had to come, and I thank you for your Ruach, Abba Yahuwah, that has been given us to be able to teach us the truth, that comes to open up the eyes of our understanding and our heart, for us to be able to see the truth of your scriptures and be set free. I praise and I thank you, Father, that you truly are raising up your remnant in this hour. And for those that are still held captive by the lies that is being fed them from many different ways, so much lies and deception that's coming upon people right now. But I ask you, Abba Yahuwah, that you will come and open up their eyes and open up their ears, so that they will hear and so that they will see, and that they will fear you and turn from their wicked ways and come back into the fullness of truth. I praise and I thank you for this in Yeshua's name. Let us read the Aaronic blessing. Yevarechecha Yahuwah ve'yishmerecha. Yair Yahuwah panav ha'elecha. Vechunecha. Yesa Yahuwah panav ha'elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. Yahuwah bless you and keep you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. Shalom. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Shabbat shalom.